the last stop. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate road, Thomas found himself waiting at a lonely bus stop. He had been traveling for days, seeking solace from a life that had become unbearably mundane. His job at the insurance company felt like a prison, and his relationships had faded into mere acquaintances. With only a backpack slung over his shoulder, Thomas glanced around. The area was eerily quiet, save for the distant rustle of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. He checked his watch, 7:15 p.m. The bus was late, but something about the stillness made him uneasy. A chill ran down his spine as the shadows lengthened. Just as he contemplated turning back, he heard the distant rumble of an engine. The headlights pierced the darkness, illuminating the road like a spotlight on a stage. The bus, an old dilapidated vehicle with peeling paint and flickering lights, pulled up in front of him with an unsettling creak. The door swung open, revealing a driver with a gaunt face and sunken eyes. "Where to, friend?" he asked, his voice gravelly and low. Thomas hesitated. I'm not sure. Just anywhere but here, I guess." The driver nodded knowingly. "Hop on. You'll find what you seek." Feeling an inexplicable pull, Thomas climbed aboard. The interior was dimly lit, with tattered upholstery and an odd, musty smell. He took a seat near the back, glancing out the window as the bus lurched into motion. The road twisted and turned, leaving the familiarity of the city behind. As the bus made its way down the winding road, Thomas's unease grew. The landscape outside transformed from urban sprawl to dense, foreboding woods. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their branches clawing at the night sky. It felt as if the forest were closing in, swallowing the bus whole. Passengers filled the seats around him, though he hadn't noticed them boarding. They were silent, their faces obscured in shadow. Thomas tried to strike up a conversation with the man next to him, but the man merely stared ahead, unblinking. Hours passed, or maybe just minutes. Time began to lose its meaning. Thomas felt the weight of exhaustion tugging at his eyelids. Just as he began to nod off, the bus hit a bump, jolting him awake. In that moment, he spotted a flicker of light through the trees. It was faint but beckoning. He leaned closer to the window, straining to see. There, nestled in a clearing, was a village. The lights flickered like fireflies, warm and inviting against the cold backdrop of the woods. The bus slowed, and Thomas's heart raced. "Is this our stop?" he asked the driver, who remained focused on the road. "More than just a stop, my friend," the driver replied cryptically. The bus rolled to a stop at the edge of the village, the engine sputtering to silence. Thomas hesitated, glancing at the other passengers who remained seated, their faces still shrouded in shadow. Gathering his courage, he stepped off the bus and onto the cobblestone street, the chill of the night wrapping around him like a shroud. The village was quaint, with narrow streets lined by crooked houses. Flickering lanterns hung from wrought iron posts, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. Thomas felt a strange mix of intrigue and trepidation as he wandered deeper into the village. He passed a small tavern, its sign creaking in the wind. The door swung open, revealing a warm glow and laughter spilling out. Drawn to the sound, Thomas stepped inside. The tavern was filled with villagers, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the fireplace. They greeted him with smiles that felt both welcoming and unsettling. "Sit, stranger," called a burly man at the bar. "Join us for a drink." Thomas took a seat and the bartender poured him a glass of dark ale. The villagers began to share stories, tales of the village's history, of the woods that surrounded them, and of the mysterious occurrences that plagued the area. "Some say the woods are alive," one woman whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "They take what they want, and they don't give back." As the night wore on, Thomas felt the weight of their stories settle in his chest. He tried to shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong, but the sense of dread was palpable. The villagers spoke in hushed tones, their laughter morphing into something more sinister. "Stay with us," the burly man urged, a glint of something dark in his eyes. "You'll find what you're looking for here." "What do you mean?" Thomas asked, bewildered. Everyone comes here for a reason, the bartender replied, wiping a glass with a rag that looked more like a relic of the past. You'll find your truth in this village. Thomas's heart raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the villagers were sizing him up, weighing his worth. He excused himself and stepped outside, needing fresh air to clear his mind. As he wandered the cobblestone streets, he noticed that the village seemed to shift around him. The buildings looked the same, yet they felt different, as if they were rearranging themselves. A sense of being trapped clawed at him. He turned a corner and found himself back at the tavern, though he could have sworn he had walked in the opposite direction. Panic set in. He rushed down another street, heart pounding, when he stumbled upon an old crumbling church. Its doors stood ajar, inviting him in. He hesitated but felt an overwhelming urge to enter. Inside, the air was thick with dust and despair. Moonlight streamed through the stained glass, illuminating a scene of anguish. A cracked altar stood at the front, surrounded by remnants of candles that had long since burned out. At the altar lay an ancient book, its pages yellowed with age. Drawn to it, Thomas reached out and opened it. The words were in a language he couldn't understand, but the images were haunting, depictions of villagers making sacrifices to the woods, of shadows lurking among the trees, of faces twisted in agony. Suddenly a voice echoed through the church. You shouldn't have come here, Thomas. He spun around, finding himself face to face with the gaunt driver. What do you want from me? He demanded, fear coursing through him. The village feeds on the lost, the disillusioned, the driver replied, stepping closer. You sought escape, and now you are part of the cycle. The realization hit him like a cold wave. The villagers, the bus, the stories, they were all part of a trap, a web spun by the woods that held the village in its thrall. Determined to escape, Thomas bolted from the church and raced through the streets. The village was alive with whispers, shadows stretching and shifting as if they were coming for him. He sprinted toward the edge of the woods, praying he could break free. As he reached the tree line, he heard footsteps behind him, heavy, relentless. He glanced back and saw the villagers emerging from the shadows, their faces devoid of emotion, eyes glinting with hunger. Come back, they called, their voices melding into a chilling chorus. You belong to us now. Thomas pushed forward, adrenaline fueling his flight. He plunged into the woods, branches clawing at him as he ran deeper into the darkness. The sounds of the village faded behind him, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the distant howls of unseen creatures. Just as he thought he had escaped, he found himself in a clearing. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness. In the center stood an ancient tree, gnarled and twisted, roots sprawling like fingers. It felt alive, pulsating with an energy that was both alluring and repulsive. He could hear whispers again, but this time they were clearer, beckoning him closer. Join us. Become one with the woods. Thomas hesitated, feeling the pull of the tree. It promised him freedom from his mundane life, a chance to escape his pain. But deep down, he knew it was a lie. The village had claimed countless souls, and he could not let himself be another victim. With a surge of defiance, he turned and ran, pushing through the darkness. The whispers grew louder, the shadows closing in, but he refused to look back. He would not let them take him. Hours felt like minutes as Thomas ran, the forest closing in around him. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm him, he broke through the tree line and into the open road. The bus stop stood before him, illuminated by the flickering light of a distant lamp. He stumbled toward it, breathless and trembling. The familiar sound of the bus engine echoed down the road. It was the same dilapidated bus that had brought him to the village, and it screeched to a halt in front of him. The driver's gaunt face appeared once more, a twisted smile stretching across his lips. Did you find what you were looking for? Thomas shook his head, a shiver running down his spine. No, just let me go. The driver nodded, though his eyes glinted with something sinister. All journeys have consequences. As Thomas climbed aboard, The other passengers watched him with hollow eyes. The bus lurched back into motion, leaving the village behind. But as he glanced out the window, he saw the village fading into the darkness, the flickering lights slowly extinguishing. Back in the city, Thomas tried to resume his life, but the experience haunted him. He couldn't shake the feeling that the village still lingered in the shadows of his mind. The mundane life he had sought to escape felt hollow and empty, tainted by the knowledge of what lay beyond. He became a recluse, avoiding crowded places and drowning in his thoughts. The stories of the village echoed in his mind, and he often found himself staring into the woods, searching for signs of the shadows that had chased him. And then, one fateful night, he heard a familiar rumble. The bus was back, its headlights cutting through the darkness. It stopped at the curb, the door creaking open to reveal the gaunt driver once more. "Where to this time, friend?" he asked, his voice a chilling whisper. Thomas stood frozen, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. The village had promised him truth, but he had learned that some truths were better left buried. Yet as he stood there, a part of him felt the call of the woods once more. With a shudder, he turned away from the bus, leaving the door open behind him. "No more," he whispered. "I won't go back." The driver's laughter echoed through the night, a sound that would haunt him forever. The village would always be there, waiting for the lost souls who sought what they thought they wanted. And in the shadows, the woods would continue to whisper, forever hungry for their next victim. The echoes of the last stop. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when a group of college friends, Maya, Lucas, Jenna, and Sam, decided to take a spontaneous road trip to escape their studies and the pressures of impending finals. They had heard whispers of a quaint village nestled deep in the woods, a place where the air was filled with the scent of pine and the nights were illuminated by stars. Little did they know that the village was more than just a picturesque escape. It held echoes of a dark past. As they drove down winding roads, Maya, the group's unofficial leader, excitedly pointed out landmarks and scenic views. "This is going to be epic, just us, nature, and no responsibilities." Her enthusiasm was infectious, but Lucas, sitting in the passenger seat, felt a twinge of unease. "Are you sure this village is safe?" he asked, glancing at the others in the back seat. Jenna, with her long hair cascading over her shoulders, shrugged nonchalantly, while Sam, ever the skeptic, rolled his eyes. "Come on, Lucas, it's just a village." "What's the worst that could happen?" Sam replied, dismissing the concern. They continued their journey, laughter filling the car, but as they ventured deeper into the woods, the atmosphere shifted. The trees grew denser, their branches intertwining like fingers reaching for the sky. Shadows danced along the road, and an unsettling feeling settled over Lucas. As dusk approached, they found themselves at a deserted bus stop, the faded sign creaking in the wind. The group decided to stretch their legs, and while they waited, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He scanned the area, noticing how the woods seemed to close in around them. "Doesn't this place give you the creeps?" he muttered. Jenna laughed, brushing off his concern. "You're such a worrywart, it's just a bus stop." But as they stood there waiting, the air grew still, thick with an oppressive silence. Just then, an old, dilapidated bus appeared, its headlights cutting through the dusk like a knife. The driver, gaunt and hollow-eyed, opened the door. "Where to?" he asked, his voice raspy. The friends exchanged glances, caught between curiosity and caution. "We were just about to head to the village," Maya said, stepping forward. "Step on. You'll find what you seek," the driver replied with a knowing smile that sent a chill down Lucas's spine. Against his better judgment, they boarded the bus, the interior dimly lit and claustrophobic. The old, musty smell filled their nostrils as they took their seats. The bus lurched forward, leaving the bus stop behind, and Lucas felt a growing sense of dread as they entered the woods. After what felt like an eternity, the bus finally came to a stop. The friends stepped off, finding themselves in a quaint village, much like the one they had envisioned. Lanterns flickered along the cobblestone streets, casting warm pools of light against the darkening sky. The village seemed peaceful, yet an undercurrent of something sinister lingered. As they wandered through the streets, they noticed the villagers moving about, their faces obscured in shadow. They exchanged hushed whispers, casting sidelong glances at the newcomers. Jenna felt a shiver run down her spine. This place is weird. Maya, ever the adventurous spirit, insisted they explore further. Let's find a tavern or something. We can chat with the locals. The group reluctantly followed her lead, entering a small tavern where the atmosphere was warmer, though the laughter of the patrons felt forced. The bartender, a burly man with a thick beard, greeted them with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Welcome, travelers. What brings you to our humble village?" he asked, pouring them drinks. "We heard it was a great place to unwind," Maya replied, raising her glass. "Ah, many come seeking escape," the bartender said, his voice low. "But be careful, the woods have a way of taking what they want." As the night wore on, the friends shared stories and laughter, but Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. He felt the weight of the villagers' gazes on him, as if they were measuring his worth. He excused himself from the table and stepped outside, needing fresh air to clear his mind. Under the moonlight, he walked down the cobblestone streets, feeling the oppressive weight of the woods pressing in on him. Shadows danced in the corners of his vision, and he could hear whispers, a chorus of voices, too soft to understand but filled with longing and despair. "Lucas," Maya called, stepping out of the tavern. "Where are you going?" "I just need some air," he replied, but he could feel a pull toward the edge of the woods. "Don't wander too far," she warned, her voice laced with concern. "This place gives me the creeps." As Lucas stood at the edge of the woods, the whispers grew louder, beckoning him closer. He hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. The trees loomed like ancient guardians, their gnarled branches swaying in the night breeze. "Come, Lucas," the whispers seemed to say. "You're one of us now." He took a step back, heart racing when he heard a rustling behind him. Turning, he saw Maya approaching, her face pale. "I don't like this place. We should go back." But before he could respond, the ground beneath them trembled, and a deep rumble echoed from the woods. The friends rushed back to the tavern, where the atmosphere had turned sinister. The laughter had faded, replaced by anxious murmurs. "What's happening?" Jenna asked, fear in her eyes. The bartender's expression had changed. He looked grave. "The woods are restless. You must leave soon before it's too late." "What do you mean?" Sam challenged, his bravado faltering. "It's not just a village," the bartender warned. "It's a trap. The woods crave the lost, the disillusioned. If you linger too long, you might not leave at all." Panic set in as the friends exchanged worried glances. "We need to find a way out," Lucas urged. "Let's just head back to the bus," Maya suggested, her voice trembling. As they stepped outside, they noticed the villagers had gathered, their faces shrouded in shadow. The air thickened with tension, and the whispers grew into a cacophony of voices, drowning out their thoughts. "Stay with us," one of the villagers cried, their eyes glinting with hunger. "You belong here." The group felt the weight of their decision pressing down on them. Maya looked at her friends, desperation in her eyes. "We can't stay here. We need to get back to the bus." They turned to flee, but the villagers closed in around them, their expressions twisted in longing. "You will find your truth here," they chanted, their voices echoing in the night. Fear propelled them forward as they dashed through the streets, hearts pounding. The village seemed to shift and warp around them, the cobblestones twisting like a maze. They stumbled into the woods, hoping to find a path back to the bus. As they ran deeper into the trees, the shadows closed in, and the whispers grew louder, urging them to surrender. "Join us, become one with the woods." Lucas felt a surge of defiance. "We can't give in," he yelled, rallying his friends. "We need to stick together." They pressed on, the darkness enveloping them, but the pull of the woods was strong. Each step felt like a battle against an unseen force, and they could hear the villagers' chants echoing behind them. Finally, after what felt like hours, they stumbled into a clearing. In the center stood the ancient tree, its twisted roots sprawling like fingers. It pulsated with a dark energy, beckoning them closer. "Don't look at it," Jenna cried, pulling at Lucas's arm. "We need to keep moving." But the tree seemed to call to them, its whispers promising freedom from their burdens. "You can escape your pain. Just steps it closer." Standing at the edge of the clearing, the friends faced a decision that would determine their fates. They could feel the weight of the tree's energy, a magnetic pull that threatened to drag them in. "Fight it," Lucas shouted, clenching his fists. "We're stronger than this." Maya, her eyes wide, took a step back. What if it's true? What if we could find peace here? "No," Sam was resolute. "We can't let it take us. We have to leave." With a surge of determination, they turned away from the tree, running back into the depths of the woods, the whispers turning to wails. The villagers' cries echoed in their ears, desperation and hunger intertwining in a haunting melody. As they neared the edge of the woods, the path ahead began to shimmer with light. Hope surged in their hearts. Could they escape? But the villagers emerged from the shadows, blocking their way. "Why do you resist?" one of them pleaded. "You are lost, just like us. Join us and find your place." "Never," Lucas shouted, pushing forward. "We will not become part of this." In a moment of clarity, Maya grabbed Jenna's hand, and Sam took Lucas's shoulder. Together they formed a united front against the encroaching darkness. "We are not lost," Maya declared, her voice steady. "We are alive, and we choose to fight." With that, they charged through the villagers, who hesitated, taken aback by their resolve. The friends raced past them, sprinting toward the edge of the woods, where the light grew brighter. Part 10. The Bus. Bursting into the clearing, they finally spotted the bus, its headlights illuminating the path. The driver stood by the door, a knowing smile on his face. "Did you find what you were looking for?" he asked, his voice eerily calm. Lucas glanced back at the woods where shadows loomed and whispers faded into silence. "No," he replied, breathless, "but we found ourselves." They hurried onto the bus, and as it lurched into motion, the oppressive weight of the village lifted. The woods receded behind them, the whispers fading into the night. Part 11. The Aftermath. As they drove away, the friends sat in silence, processing the harrowing experience. The bus rattled along the road, and the dim lights of the village disappeared into the distance. "Do you think we'll ever forget?" Jenna asked quietly, breaking the silence. Lucas looked at her, memories flashing in his mind. "I don't know. Maybe it's something we carry with us." Maya nodded, her expression contemplative. "But we're alive. We found each other in the darkness." Sam leaned back in his seat, eyes closed. "Just promise me we won't take spontaneous trips like that again." Laughter broke the tension, but beneath it lay an unspoken understanding. They had faced something primal and terrifying. The village had tested them, revealing the fragility of their lives and the shadows lurking within. The bus rumbled on, carrying them away from the echoes of the last stop, but the experience remained etched in their minds, a reminder of the choices they made and the strength they found in each other. The end.